can be contained. With AI, every day we'll gain. Embrace the tech, let innovation reign. Smash every challenge, break the chain. Fingertips, the future's clear. With AI inside, there's nothing to fear. With spreadsheets, smart lines, all aligned. New horizons await in digital design. Build, innovate, the vision's embrace. With AI power, call at each pace. Grab your story, let the potential unchain. Driving distinction, innovation stay. From local dreams to a global stage, AI opens arcation a page. Learning curves, AI smiths the ride. Together we soar, side by side. Growth on horizons, futures understand. Reaching for heights with AI's trusted hand. Ideas flow like river, possibilities grand. In this wave of progress, together we stand. Tools at the ready, vision swiftly soar. Empower endeavors, AI opens the door. Streamline the process, efficiently anew. Building our kingdom of possibilities we pursue.
We'll serenade you with bytes and bits. Through wires and bytes, our melody fits. As virtual minstrels of this modern age, play rock us on a digital stage. We're pixelated poets, strumming our dreams. Melodies flowing like data streams. Laughter's our chorus, sincerity our muse. In this brave new world, humor's our rule. In a digital space, I'm writing lines with grace. Artificial brains and art, we're the future of the chart. Oh, it's AI on the mic tonight. Sing along, let's get it right. Robots grooving, feeling tight. Jokes on me are a delight. With a binary smile and a pixelated heart. Rhyme algorithms, I'm working smart. A symphony of code in perfect harmony. Sing along, join this techno party. Whoa, where the world, work is bad tonight. AI strumming chords, take it light. Robots jamming, keeping it bright. Up the records, AI's got the spotlight. In the server room, there's a beat divine. Cables and circuits keeping us in line. Future's ours with gigabytes of play. Let's dance to data, come on, May. Hey, digital dreams composed on the cloud. With each witty line, we're stirring up some love. Big souls, roads, we're breaking the mold. Come laugh with us, our story's told.
Weekly cybersecurity briefing. In the interest of making the best of everyone's time, cybersecurity briefings are always kept to 15 minutes. If you have any questions, please ask them in the chat and they will be answered after the briefing. Without any further ado, here is your host, Ron Trotto.
Well, it's 10 a.m. once again on a Friday. It is January 31st. That happened quickly, 2025. Today we're going to be talking about artificial intelligence, AI. I'm going to own something right out of the gate here. Those that talked to me last year, and we haven't talked since, When I mean last year, I mean around last summer, a little bit earlier in the year. If you had asked me about my thoughts on AI in small business, obviously it was a powerful tool even then. I really did think back then, though, we would have maybe a 2, 3, even possibly a 5 year ramp for most businesses in AI. I was dead wrong on that. AI is moving at such a pace that I think this will be the year that defines the companies that will make it through to the next round of innovation and existence, from those that aren't, through usage of AI in their companies as a critical part and parcel of how they transact business. Now, with that being said, the last week's events have been pretty interesting, but they do illustrate a fairly good example of what we can expect in a market that is moving as quickly and as volatile as the AI market is doing right now. So, what happened? Well, a Chinese based company released this new Deepseek AI, and it really disrupted the market. Why did it disrupt the market? Essentially because they were able to do something, uh, and there's some, I'm going to throw a little bit of BS indicators here, but they were able to do something for a minimal amount of cost that yields a very similar result to what companies that are like OpenAI and these companies are spending hundreds, tens and hundreds of billions of dollars. We have a $500 billion plan to make AI um, this country's next big thing. And don't fool yourself. We are definitely in a technological arms race here between countries. Uh, and some of that BS stuff I was talking about, one of the things you have to do, and one of the biggest, kind of the biggest part or investment or time sink, is the way that these models work, the way that they learn, is they have to go out and gain all of the knowledge that is out there, essentially. And it's going to bring that back, store it in a certain way. That's how these models work. And believe it or not, there's not a whole lot of intelligence that goes on. It's kind of simulated intelligence because it's like a very advanced game of Mad Libs or finish the story. Now, if you've been with AI or if you played with it, the very first iterations of what we consider this large language model or LLM, which is like your typical chat GPT, Perplexity, all of these are various variants of an LLM. They are just really, really fancy, complete the sentence structure. And if you were in the beginning, that's kind of what they did. You type something in and it would complete and run on with that story and just kept on telling it to expand. And that's because it's a pattern recognition system underneath the covers. We're not going to get terribly technical on this, but just keep that in mind. This is not real intelligence, it's simulated intelligence because, well, if you've seen every pattern in existence, you can figure out with certainty, with some certainty, giving a context. That context part's important in the AI world. Given a context, it's really just a matter of mathematically matching the patterns to complete the sentence. It's crazy, but this is where we are, and that's why it needs so much data. That's why it needs so much processing power, and that's why AI has been very expensive to implement. What DeepSeek has done is it's taken that resource requirement down. It's basically distilled that information, and it's brought that resource requirement way down, 1/10 to 1/100th. Why did this impact the markets? Well, you have NVIDIA, who makes essentially all of the chips for that the AIs use. It started out as graphics processors. Turns out that architecture works out really well with some tweaks to work on and be part of a good LLM underlying architecture that supports this from the processing side. So now that something is being done with 1/10 to 1/100th the resources, with a very similar output, maybe those projections that NVIDIA had given, those sales projections on their processors, might be incorrect now. That remains to be seen because, and why don't we just address the BS flags that we had with the release? It was opportunistic given the timing. Clearly, they have taken data from OpenAI. OpenAI has been a little fussy about that. Funny coming from a company that also has, at least the New York Times has, been involved with some legal proceedings with them taking all of their information. Kind of funny how that happens, but what we do have to take to heart here is that, excuse me, this is a product that comes from someone that we are kind of at. I don't want to say war because it's got a lot of connotations, but at the base, yeah, we're at an economic, we are at a technological. It's clear that we are definitely challenging each other at a level that could say that it's unprecedented, and we're doing this with technology that is unprecedented in ways that are unprecedented. So one of the big things that they were claiming was that they were able to train, and that's really training that base, bringing in that collective knowledge base and training a model on that is the most expensive investment to date for the companies. And they were able to do that at a price point that is just insane. I believe it was 5 to 6 million. Even if it was 50, 60 million, it doesn't make a difference. It's not $1 billion. It's not, it's not nearly as much as what OpenAI has put into their research program. And they're now able to derive the similar output, like I was saying, at a lot less compute cost. So at 1/10 to 1/100th, which means you're going to save from 10 to 90% on those raw costs of processing in order to do the same thing. Now, believe it or not, some innovation did come out of this as well. If we put the BS flags aside, and before we put those aside, let's talk about one little thing. Please do not download the Deepseek app on your phone. We just got rid of TikTok because we don't want nation states that we are in some type of conflict with freely gaining access to our information or our devices. Please don't do that. The government has disallowed this. We have, I believe, one of the states has brought this up. I know we have a country somewhere that's already banned it. So, be aware of that. And we're talking about cybersecurity here. Be aware of that. Let's come back and talk about the security side of the equation. And I'm not saying that don't use AI, because I like I had stated within the opening, I think we're in a position now where, as small businesses, we are going to need to embrace this technology to stay alive. And it may be as simple as you may have a coffee shop in another year. You're going to need AI in some way or shape, form, or another, to compete with other coffee shops in your market. I know it sounds crazy, but this has a way of really getting in deep into our businesses. So let's keep that in mind. I don't think we put this back in the closet. It's the Kraken has been unleashed, and we have to embrace and team it for our businesses. But at the same token, this is very new technology, and it advances at a pace. If anyone is a similar age to me, we had Moore's Law. We're able to essentially double our processing every year on computers and half the cost. This is going to make that look like it was a very slow trudge towards the finish line of where we are today. So keep that in mind. So we're going to see a lot of disruptions in our supply chain in terms of AI as technological advances occur. What does that mean, really? It means don't get into 3-year contracts with AI providers. spend a little bit extra, do your month to month, unless you know it's something that you are going to use as a base for a year, or you've become mature enough where this has become such a big part of your business. You need that stability. Make sure that you secure your contract, but make sure you've documented everything. So if these platforms cease to exist on you for whatever reason, either they can't compete in the market or they get acquired, or the other thing that's been buzzing around in the air is what are the legal implications of these LLMs using public knowledge? If we get a ruling on that and some of the source material needs to be taken out, you may not be able to use that platform until they retrain it. And that might take, it's not an hour, it's not a 15-minute thing. That may take days, weeks. So we have to keep that in mind, and we have to make sure that we are agile in terms of uh, moving to either a different platform or a different solution. But at the end of the day, it's really about understanding what it is that AI is doing for you. And it really focuses on some of the weaknesses of small business because notoriously, and I will speak for myself here, we have been horrible at documenting processes and documenting our org charts and really flushing through plans just because, well, we're small businesses. We wear so many hats that we don't have the time to properly articulate these things. And I've seen this in business coaching. Been doing this for over 20 years. The businesses that grow are the ones that were able to wrangle that thing in, grab it by the horns, document those processes, and that's their maturity. That's how they get to the next level. So it's almost a rite of passage, but it's being forced down upon us so that if things go wrong, we have a plan. Remember, this applies to almost everything in technology, almost everything in life itself. Failure to plan is a plan to fail, especially around cybersecurity. So we have the security aspect of platforms not being available. And in this instance, it's almost like having your workforce vanish overnight. Let's say you've got you fully invested in AI and something comes down and your platform turns down overnight, or a piece of it does. It's like losing half of your workforce overnight. So you need to have a plan on how to deal with that. Now, from the traditional data aspect, in terms of protecting your internal data and protecting your client's data, we've discussed this before. It is imperative that you have an AI use of AI plan in place for your business, even for yourself. So you understand that every time that you feed an AI model information, you understand that I need to comply this information with our internal rules. Because trust me, as you start to get into the into the wondrous hole of AI and seeing everything that it can do, it's very alluring to give it all of your information, to give it all your financials, to give it all your data, because it can really give you a lot of insight. But unless you have protection around that data, it's a really bad idea because most of these models, especially when you're not paying for it, remember, when you don't pay for technology, you are you are the payment. Your data, your usage is the payment to that platform. We've done this with Meta, we've done this with Facebook. It repeats. We keep on doing it with TikTok and Temu, but unfortunately, the data collection is a nation state backed company. So, we keep on repeating this process, but don't do it with your data. You need to make sure that you follow that plan. And every time that you use an AI, you have to make sure that you are compliant. And it doesn't mean that you can't have your own little silo of AI, but you do have to realize that that's going to cost you some money because you have to kind of reverse that role of you and your data being the product to paying for that product. This stuff is not cheap, and we're going to see the costs go up even with the advances of Deepseek. You're going to see those costs continue to escalate just because electric's a thing, compute power is a thing. times a thing. So all of these are going to continue to raise the price, which is my other point on security. Make sure that, if that model does move the needle on you and the prices do go up, you need to stay ahead of that and budget for it to make sure that you're going to be able to afford everything that's been built out. Most companies, what they're going to do is replacing and I don't want to say people, because it's really, at the end of the day, we know that's what's going to happen. It's supposed to be a tool to help people, but people are very, very expensive in today's economy. So I get it. But instead of replacing people, we really need to augment the job of people so they could do incredibly more and our businesses can grow. But you also have to look at it in terms of what the impact will be, like we do with anything else. Back in the day when you had on-prem servers, what's the impact if that server goes down? All right, how do we mitigate that? What do we do? Do we have a backup server? What do we do? We're going to do the same thing with AI. So you have to start thinking about that now. We're at over 15 minutes. I'm so sorry. We always keep these to 15 minutes or less. And today we went over by a minute. But any questions, please put them down below. I'm going to hang out here for a couple of moments and see if we've got anything happening. Also, just a little housekeeping. I'm going to stick a link down below. We've been doing AI webinars. If you want to see really what AI can do for small business right now today, for nearly no cost, but it's really about exposing your mind's eye to some of the possibilities of what can be done out there that can save you a lot of time or expand your capabilities. Come to our AI webinar. They're only 45 minutes. We go pretty quickly. It's not, we call them a workshop, but it's not a hands-on, you're going to learn a certain tool. We are going to go through a lot of the various tools and a lot of the ways that AI can help improve your business. And then we'll get some feedback and see if we want to do some additional in-depth workshops going forward, just to help. The issue with AI and training is that by the time you complete a training program, they're changing at such a rampant pace that almost always the moment you finish putting together the training, it has yet again changed, typically in some fundamental fashion. So it would be not viable to keep a training library so much on the tools themselves, but more around the principles of how do you maintain AI and how do you document it, how do you do risk assessment, that type of thing. I'm not seeing anything come through yet. Let me just check this other window. Oh. All right, so I did get a question about how are we, where should we start? I'm going to tell you, why don't you start by attending the webinar, our AI webinar. But seriously, ChatGPT, Gemini, Gemini.google.com, they all have free versions. Now, the one thing that I will tell you is that don't use it as an advanced search engine. If you want to do research, use an AI called Perplexity.ai. It is the grandmaster right now at research. It will cite sources, but don't use ChatGPT as a research device to get you a lot of things. First of all, the model is in time, so it's either from April, I think right now, as of today, I think the latest model is from April of last year, of 2024. So it doesn't have anything in its knowledge base since that point, in terms of gaining, knowledge from the worldwide sources. So you need to keep that in mind. But what you want to do is prompt it, and believe it or not, the easiest way to do that is to prompt it as if it is a tutor. And you would ask ChatGPT, hey, ChatGPT, I'm new to this. How do I go about learning about how to prompt ChatGPT for information with some examples? And it will provide that. It's highly conversational. It will provide those examples to you, and you can just follow. And anytime that you get stuck, ask the model, because chances are that someone else has gotten stuck as well, and it does learn from that. So it does have that data in there. It's highly unlikely you're the first person to ask it that sort of question or pose it that sort of problem. And if you are struggling with how do I write we call those the prompts, it's like the search bar, that's the prompt. How do we prompt it? And also with your prompts, you can be a little lengthy in your prompt. It's not like the old Google search bar where you're, you're giving it some almost Klingon type terms to search for stuff. Those that know, talking a little bit more caveman to it. But they are actually incorporating that. Bing has incorporated that. Obviously, Google is incorporating that into their search engines now, so we can prompt the search engine a little bit better, but it's not an LLM, so don't expect the same result. If you want to stick with the Google platform, you're going to go Gemini. OpenAI is ChatGPT. Perplexity is perplexity.ai. These are all tools, LLM models that are highly useful to small businesses. But seriously, come to the webinar. I will stick that link down below shortly. All right, we have another question about Deepseek. Okay, Deepseek, do not install the application, obviously. If you want to use Deepseek, they're still having challenges with registering new accounts. Again, my BS detector goes off on that. I'm not sure if they're being attacked or if they're just limiting access. And one of the other things with Deepseek too, if you use it, it's fine to use it to play with it, to test it. Please do not give it any data of consequence or substance, because clearly, if you look at the end user license agreement, they own it. Once you put it in there, it's considered part of the collective, and they're going to own your data. So please keep that in mind and don't do that. Now, that's if you go directly. There are models. Like you can take that Deepseek agent or Deepseek model, and you can run it actually on your own hardware. It's not terribly difficult, but you do have to be a little bit technical to make it happen. But the average, technical high school kid can do it. That's where you run it on your own hardware. Now, I'd wait until because it is open source, I'd wait until the open source community has had a hot moment to look at that code to make sure that we're not shipping anything back anywhere, and to remove the restrictions from the model. If you try to query that model, for instance, the famous one right now is the Tiananmen Square. If you query that model on anything, you will see that the think part, which is how it formulates its game plan on generating information, is empty, which means that it is a restricted model because there's no thinking involved. It just gives a pre-made answer, if you will, to that. So keep that in mind. But yeah, you can play with it, but just please don't give it anything of substance. It is quote unquote safe as long as you don't install an application. If you're just using it through the web, it's fine. Regular data safety, make sure you're doing it inside of an incognito or in private window in your browser, just to make sure that the cookies don't leave anything on your machine. But aside from that, it is safe to play with it. Let's see. Okay, again, I will stick that link to our webinar in the comments section below. Just give me a little bit of time to do that on all platforms. I believe our next webinar, let me just look at our calendar here. Our next webinar is on February 6th. So next week is our next webinar. Trying to do them a couple times a month. Each one is live, so everyone's a little bit different. Let's see. Okay, here's an interesting one. What platforms would I recommend staying away from? Well, obviously, you don't want to do anything that's like the Deepseek AI. There's also a image generator by the same company. But with any platform, as you would do with any vendor, you need to do your due diligence and do some research on them. In terms of which ones look like they're viable versus not viable, it's far too early in the game to really make a lot of those assertions on which companies are going to be good to go with versus those that won't. I have some personal opinions. We could talk about those offline, just because I don't see how some companies are going to have a monetizable model going forward without increasing the cost to the consumer greatly, which will probably mean mass exodus of the consumers when done. So, we could have conversations about that, but like I said in the beginning or mid part of the presentation briefing today, it's important that you document the process more than it is the tool that you're using. Don't get stuck on the tool. The tool should not drive the solution ever. Your business needs should be driving what tools you use, not the capability of the tools driving how you use it in the business. It's a trap that we all fall into. MSPs, our industry, our guys are the worst at it because they're techies. Most of them underneath the covers, they're techies. So they will want to fall into that trap often. And we do have to remind ourselves in group therapy that it's really about what the need is, not what the capability of the tool is. Now, a lot of times in our industry, at least, the capabilities of the tools are built out to the need. But sometimes not so much, and it looks attractive, and you end up going down a rabbit hole, investing a lot of time and effort in something that there is no secondary market for. So if that company ever decides to pull the plug on that, or that company gets acquired, or that company just plain goes out of business, you may be stuck selling a service that you can't provide anymore. So you need to keep that in mind. All right, that's all I see for questions, and we are coming up on our 15-minute limit. I thank everyone. If you're here, thank you for watching. If you have any additional questions, remember to put them down below in the comment section. We do come through, believe it or not. We actually have AI that'll be doing this shortly, kind of testing that out now. And we're just not going to be answering the questions. I don't trust it at that level yet, but it will be alerting us as to when this happens. So look forward to those questions, though, seriously. As a community of small business owners, I really hope that we can share our knowledge, share our concerns, so that this stuff is not a burden. I get it. Technology, it moves at such a pace. Cybersecurity is moving at such a pace. I get it. It is a huge burden. It is a huge time sink for us. That's why I do things like this, trying to help out our business community, our friends out there. 15 minutes in your week. Hopefully you found this. Even this one's at 30 minutes with our Q&A, but I hope you found it valuable. If you did, please let us know. Give us a thumbs up. Let us know that you did find it valuable. I appreciate that. And any suggestions, any way we can change the format and make it more helpful for you, let us know. And with that being said, we're going to close this out at least at the 30-minute mark. We hit one goal post today, so we're going to close this out. And I hope you have a wonderful and productive week. We'll see you next week, 10 a.m., same bat time, same bat channel.